You will own nothing. And you will be happy.
Warning. Your weekly rental smart contract will automatically execute in 72 hours. Please ensure that your personal wallet is appropriately funded. Your scheduled Uber ride share will arrive in 10 minutes. Now arriving at your destination.
我们现在到达您的目的地。
Good morning. Waging number 22177? New transfer?
Yes.
Good. Look up. So what do you think of your new work pod? Pretty nice, right?
Yeah. It's a bit cramped though.
Oof. That's bad speak. I'll let you sort it out. See you at the mandatory chivalry roll call dance later today.
Yikes. You have violated your employment smart contract. Replaying offending speech.
It's a bit cramped though.
This statement is in direct contradiction with the verified Snopes fact that OpenOffice 2.0 work pods are comfortably spacious, combining the safety of closed cubicles with the communal spirit of OpenOffice environments. You have been deducted 20 good boy tokens from your weekly income. Warning. Projected weekly income is insufficient to meet your weekly rental payment. Please ensure that your wallet is appropriately funded in the next 68 hours.
Oh mein Gott. I qualmed.
There's a climate crisis.
It takes a fraction of the resources to grow a pound of crickets as it does a pound of beef. And so the amount of water it takes, the greenhouse gas emissions that it emits compared to the livestock, the amount of land that's required, the amount of feed that's required, there are so many factors that just lead to, this is kind of smart.
There's a climate crisis.
As a chef, the most important thing for me when I serve my food is that it tastes delicious. It has to taste good. And so I have to stand behind everything that I serve. So if I taste something and it doesn't taste right, then I'm not going to serve it. I mean, that never happens, thankfully, but that's part of the great challenge and the creative mission for me is how do I take something that people don't perceive as food and make it crave-worthy, make it something so that people will go like, man, I never thought I would want to eat insects, but looking at his food, I really want to try it.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you received?
No.
Trying to tear your mansion down. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Chip, chip, you tell a little lie. Chip, chip, you make your baby cry. Chip, chip, you cheat a little bit. Chip, chip, you quarrel over it. Oh, one day you're gonna discover one little wrong leads to another. Chip, chip, a chip. chipping away, chipping at your mansion of love.
What about a month or so, or 2 or 3 ago, when people were saying, you don't really need to wear a mask? People were saying people should not be walking around with masks. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. On the part of the health providers who needed it, we were thinking we would run out of masks and other things for them. So the recommendation was not to wear a mask.
You would recommend locking down schools if you had to do it all over again?
Well, you know, again, it's first of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. Why you're asking me about lockdowns? Because there were not complete lockdowns in this country. We can't stay locked down. There were not lockdowns. I have always said that the high likelihood is that this is a natural occurrence.
Are you still confident that it developed naturally?
No, actually, I'm not convinced. NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Statements made on repeated occasions
It is not gain-of-function.
by the NIAID director, Dr. Fauci, have been untruthful.
I have not lied before Congress. I have never lied.
Because they are demonstrably false.
Oh, if she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected.
Many scientists are beginning to believe that a vaccine against AIDS may be impossible to make and too dangerous to test.
If you take it and then a year goes by and everybody's fine, then you say, okay, that's good. Now let's give it to 500 people. And then a year goes by and everything's fine. You say, well, then now let's give it to thousands of people. And then you find out that it takes 12 years for all hell to break loose. And then what have you done?
I never even considered for a moment of resigning.
Never considered it for a moment?
Not even for a second. I'd have to laugh at that. I should be prosecuted.
Young people and with adults as well, is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people, 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 really brainwash people.
I said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, you know? And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He said, there were two primary reasons. And they were, one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up the family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. Now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think.
The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner. And it is the climate crisis. Climate crisis. Climate crisis.
The young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, half of this cabinet, are actually young noble leaders of the world economy. We penetrate the cabinets.
The change is not just happening. The change can be shaped by us. We have to prepare for a more angry world. How to prepare? Take the necessary action to create a fairer world. I see the need for a great reset. So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis.
And with the willing complicity of headline-hungry media, a recent crisis of the month had to do with global warming. An ozone hole is opening up over the United States, we were told, the effects of which were already measurable in an increase in skin cancer. On the contrary, destroying chlorine around the polar vortex has been declining since January. A major objective of a recent shuttle mission was to determine the scope and scale of the so-called ozone hole, and the silence since has been deafening from those whose livelihood depends on creating crises. Recent data from the Upper Atmosphere Research Satellites affirms that any problem is less, it's not greater. Ozone levels fluctuate all of the time, partly because of volcanic activity and solar flares. But MIT's technology review has made an exhaustive study of worldwide ocean temperatures since 1851, has concluded that there appears to have been little or no global warming over the past century. In fact, the net rise in world surface temperature during the last century, which was about 1%, almost all occurred before 1940, and that was before aerosols, and that has since been reversed. Former NASA chief Robert Jastrow and former Scripps director William Nierenberg, past president of the American Academy of Sciences, Frederick Seitz, all have concluded in a scathing rebuke of those who make money by predicting global warming, quote, if we allow ourselves to be influenced by press release, we could spend $1 trillion over the next decade destroying what's left of the American economy in an utterly unnecessary attempt to repeal the Industrial Revolution.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
Sure they are. I don't know. I didn't see the rest.
Number 322?
It is my sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, the moderator of Meet the Press and NBC Washington Bureau Chief, collapsed and died early this afternoon while at work at the NBC Bureau in Washington.
I've been a miner for a heart of gold. It's these expressions I never give that keep me searching for a heart of gold. And I'm getting old.
Look, I look forward
Keep
to
me searching for a heart of gold.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society in Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322? Secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets, Tim, but one thing is not a secret. I disagree with this president's direction that he's taking the country. We can do a better job, and I intend to do it.
And we'll be watching. Be safe on the campaign trail. John Kerry, thanks for joining us. And we'll be right back.
I've been to Hollywood, I've been to Redwood, I crossed the ocean for a heart of gold.
Who keep a low profile while they control the world as a business. And in an effort to prove this is so, in 1998, Pastor Rick Strawcutter videotaped a quite remarkable interview with Kay Pollard Griggs, formerly the wife of Colonel George Griggs, who for many years was the head of NATO. He was also an alcoholic of that well-known kind who are shy and unable to communicate when they are sober, but who then cannot stop talking once they have a drink. During the course of a stormy marriage, punctuated by periods of domestic violence, which cost Kay Griggs many black eyes and broken bones, she learned that her husband had been turned into a brutal psychopath as a consequence of his military training, which included induction into what is known as the Pink Triangle, the Cherry Marines. Over the years, far too much has been written about Lee Harvey Oswald. But what is remarkable is that few historians were ever aware that, like most Marines who worked in intelligence, he was homosexually recruited and was part of the same-sex club which included Jack Ruby, George Senator and David Ferry. Kay Griggs explains that these selection procedures came into the US military when the cream of the death's head sporting Nazi top brass joined the American ranks at the war's end. Ever since then, the Greek and Spartan traditions which Hitler so admired, and which were integral to the German army, have found their way into American military culture and are now manifest in the way that the old skull and bones procedure for identifying and, most importantly, controlling rising stars is now used to select the top brass of the future. In a nutshell, boy soldiers who want to rise in the ranks can only do so by doing favors for the older men.
So George Bush, I mean, all these people rise up to the ranks, the same club. Right. No wonder, you know, I saw a little TV clip one time where a reporter was asking George Bush and others about the Order of the Skull and Bones.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America?
I mean, if this really got out, that these guys are all inducted because they've got some kind of homosexual thing on them.
Indoctrination. I mean, or induction. They have to do that.
Yeah.
They do that.
Yeah.
Even in a coffin. And it's even now coming into the military totally. The chiefs do that. They put them in the coffin. They do the bowling ball trick.
Okay, you're going to explain this. What happens when you get in the coffin? Why do you get in a coffin?
Oh, they get, when you get your eagles, that's a German thing.
Okay.
You know, it's what the German high command did, and most of them, you know, had the boyfriends and stuff, the Krupps and all of that. It is a German thing that they say goes back to Greece, and it's all the male Marine-looking men that they do it with. See? So now the chiefs have to do that. What they do is they get, George said it's like a zoo. They get everybody really drunk, and they sometimes call it dining in. Shellback is another time that they do it. Not everybody does it, but the ones who do it, if they're young, they get right up to the top. It's a...
okay, well, what actually do they do? They've got a coffin, they get inside
anal
this...
sex. Oh, that. They do... They put them in the coffin and they do things. Anal sex. Oh, that. They do... They put them in the coffin and they do things.
This is how military recruits are now controlled. And the mafia military exert a similar hold over all career politicians. At some time on the way up, they are manoeuvred into a compromising position, usually through the use of two-way mirrors in a brothel. And once the mafia military have got something on them, the career politicians, judges, senior police officers and media moguls face a stark choice. Either take your payoff, which is usually worth millions of dollars, or go to jail for life for your misdemeanor. It is with these kinds of tactics, first used by Sam Giancana in the 1930s, that what are now known as the 5 mafia families of the New York metropolitan area, the Genovese, Gambino, Lucchese, Colombo and the Bonanno, control all politics in the United States, and through their business arrangements with the 5-star generals and CIA, control all cocaine and heroin trafficking throughout the entire world. After the dust had settled on the Kennedy assassination, Sam Giancana explained to his younger brother that the mob and the CIA had taken care of JFK together because they were essentially two sides of the same coin. In the last 50 years, that relationship between these two secret societies has become even closer, to the point where they are now indistinguishable. The people who live in the Third World are so well aware of what is really going on, they have come to call the CIA the cocaine importing agency. The World Wide Web now abounds with proof to back this up. And although many people were skeptical at first about Kay Griggs, in recent times her most sensational claims have been fully endorsed by the FBI chief Ted Gunderson, who gave several interviews in support.
This cult was involved in distributing drugs up and down the East Coast, drugs that were being flown in from Southeast Asia in military and planes. The operation was by the certain Army personnel and also CIA. She told me that there were generals involved in the drug operation, there were police officers, and at least 2 attorneys in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area. The path that this led me down is mind-boggling. Over the last 23, 24 years, I have developed so much information about the situation as it exists in our great country and gone public with it as much as possible, and yet I am being ignored.
What is basically happening is that the United States military use Air Force bases in Europe to connect with the Third World, particularly Pakistan and Afghanistan, where the poppy fields are cultivated. This is the real reason for the conflict in Afghanistan. It's to protect the record harvests of heroin, which almost ended when the Taliban took power. But they don't tell the soldiers this, and it's a truth you'll never hear on NBC or BBC. Having brought the refined cocaine and heroin into Europe and the United States, it is then passed on to the mafia for sale at street level, sometimes by police officers in uniform. It's an arrangement which nets the generals and the mafia chiefs billions, and the fact that someone of Ted Gunderson's credibility was completely ignored when he went public with this information underlines the fact that our entire mainstream media, as well as the entire justice system, has been bought off. So the question must now be asked: if this shadow government of the world's only superstate can get away with the murder of a president and, through their wealth, be in total control of the United States military, media, and the justice system, what else might they be getting away with? Could it possibly be that the serious researchers have been right all along? And remembering what happened